that we are together today to mark up this important bipartisan bill. The Water Resources Development Act of 2020 is some of the most important authorizing legislation that we have considered this Congress. I would like to thank you, Chairman DeFazio, Ranking Member Graves, Subcommittee Chairwoman Napolitano, and Ranking Member Westerman for all of your work on this critical legislation. The Army Corps of Engineers has one of the most critical responsibilities in the country, tasked with managing the nation's water resources development and management. We all know the Corps operates and maintains essential infrastructure, thousands of dams, levees, ports, harbors, reservoirs, inland waterways across the country that are critical to our country. And in addition to supporting millions of jobs across the country and generating billions of dollars in gross domestic product, the Corps protects communities like mine from flooding by building and maintaining structures like the Addicks and Barker reservoirs, some of the most transformative infrastructure investments in the history of my hometown of Houston and really of our country. Another transformative infrastructure project for Houston was the visionary development of the Houston Ship Channel. It's interesting to know that back in the 1890s, our then US representative spent many hours trying to convince his colleagues in DC to support a deep water port for Houston. After the devastating hurricane in Galveston in 1900, the need became more urgent, and true to form, the Houston representative came up with what was then a revolutionary concept, that Houston and the federal government would share the cost of dredging a deep water channel to Houston. The Congressional Rivers and Harbors Committee voted unanimously to accept the idea, and it was the first port to be built with federal funds and local matching funds. Work began in 1912, and it has been going ever since. Today, the Houston Ship Channel is one of the largest and busiest ports in the world, a 50-mile long complex with nearly 200 public and private terminals along the Port of Houston. As Mr. Babin noted, it is the busiest deep draft waterway in the United States. It is the top export port in the country, and it supports one of the largest petrochemical manufacturing complexes in the world, as the largest energy port as well in the country. That's why I'm so glad that we are authorizing the critical project to expand the Port of Houston in this WRDA. The Houston Ship Channel Expansion Project is a project that will improve one of our country's most important assets. Ensuring the necessary infrastructure is in place for efficient and safe connectivity to the global marketplace is essential. And the Port of Houston has committed to building the upper two segments of the channel, known as the locally preferred plan, with a combination of funds from local funds and private industry to expedite this important project. So I am pleased that we're not only authorizing the project, but ensuring the recognition that the entirety of the channel is a project of such importance that the entire length will be federally maintained. I was glad to help lead the work on this critical project, working with our Houston delegation extensively, meeting with Assistant Secretary James and the Army Corps Commander of the Galveston District, Colonel Vale. I would like to thank all who were involved in making it possible to authorize this project today, including the tireless efforts of committee staff and my own staff, and my colleagues on the committee, Mr. Babin and Mr. Weber, who have worked with me on a bipartisan basis to make sure that the priorities of the entire Houston region are reflected in this bill, as well as Mr. Westerman, who I was so glad to join for a boat tour of the port last year. So thanks again to you, Mr. Chairman and Chairwoman Napolitano, for your leadership on this bipartisan bill, which will deliver on the promise we made at our first hearing to modernize our nation's infrastructure. I look forward to passing it out of our committee today, and I look forward to voting for it on the floor soon. Thank you, and I yield back.